Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. So the unusual trends in the market are definitely continuing, and at this point it's starting to feel like maybe there's going to be some big changes in the way that people approach the secondary market in Magic. And we continue to see a softness in Standard, a softness in Modern, and yet still excitement around Commander 2016 products and upgrading those products, in particular the Breed Lethality deck that has really become the forerunner, and you're going to see that this week in the cards that we look at. Also, Frontier starting to creep in and have an influence on the market as well. Now, a lot of folks feel that Frontier is going to be the next big thing. Other folks feel that it will start to fade away, but there is no denying that you're going to see this week that there's already at least a small impact on the market as a whole, which is very interesting. So having said that, let's get into our countdowns for this week, and we're going to start off as we always do with Standard and the top 5 Standard cards that have lost value this week. You're not going to see a lot of surprises here. You're going to see a lot of the big Standard cards. And right now, because we're in between Standards, folks are a little hesitant to invest in some of these more expensive cards, and they're going to start to come down. However, I will say this. Standard is not hemorrhaging value, especially considering we don't have a rotation coming or anything like that. They are staying relatively steady. You're just not going to see a whole lot of growth on the other side. Coming in number 5 is Sky Sovereign Consulship, down 43 cents to $5.54. Coming in number 4 is Kalatos, Trader of Get, down 47 cents to $20.45. Still the most popular card from Oath of the Gatewatch. Coming in number 3 is Virtuous Gearhulk, down 62 cents to $7.78. Coming in at number 2 is Aetherworks Marvel, down 63 cents to $7.25. This one spiked a little bit last week, and even though, yes, Blue-White Flash is still the most popular deck in the format, maybe followed by Delirium, but Aetherworks decks are definitely in that conversation as well. And finally, coming in at number 1 is Torrential Gearhulk, down 75 cents to $14.19. So, like I said, not huge decreases at all this week. Alright, let's look at the top 5 Standard cards that have gained value this week. Coming in number 5, we have Grim Flyer, up 17 cents to $21.77, of course part of the Delirium deck. Coming in number 4, Gideon Ally of Zendikar, up 24 cents to $28.49. I almost thought we'd see a little bit of a larger spike this week from this card due to the reveal of Oath of Ajani from Aether Revolt, which seems to play really, really well with this card. But I do think this card is just kind of topped out. I think so many players have their copies of it, and so many packs of Battle for Zendikar were open that even with that card reveal, this didn't really see too big of an increase. Coming in at number 3 is Ishkana Graph Widow, up 30 cents to $9.17, also from the Delirium decks. Coming in at number 2, Emrakul The Promised End, up 33 cents to $19.41. And finally, Panharmonicon, up 38 cents to $4.75. So again, not a huge increase by any means. Very, very small increases. The Standard market is staying very stable. However, it is worthy to note, yes, Panharmonicon, the number 1 card, is seeing play in Standard, but for the most part, I think the drive to this card is even more so an upgrade to the Commander 2016 deck, Breed Lethality. Alright, let's move on to Modern. And Modern, you're going to see a lot of the same stuff. The actual Modern playable cards are very soft right now. They're not really moving. They're not necessarily losing large amounts of money. Again, much like Standard, they're kind of staying stable. However, there's other cards that are being influenced that are Modern legal cards in the market. Coming in number 5 is Brushland, down $1.27 to $14.12. This is a big part of the mana base of the Bant Eldrazi decks, and this has seen spikes in the past. It is finally starting to stabilize down to a normal range. I think this one will continue to go down slowly over time. Coming in number 4 is Doubling Season from Modern Masters, down $1.58 to $59.96. Now, this has been a big pickup for Breed Lethality players. If you own that Commander 2016 deck and you have the money, you pretty much want to pick up a copy of this, and in particular, the Modern Masters version has spiked pretty significantly over the last few weeks, starting to trend down a little bit now. And yes, I think this will continue to go down as more players pick up their copies, but at the same time, I don't think this is going to bottom out or anything like that. It's a very popular card. I don't really see it falling below $55. Coming in number 3 is Tarmogoyf from Future Sight, down $1.73 to $1.45. Tarmogoyfs have been dropping, although this one is a lot higher than the other two versions, so I think this is normal stabilization at this point for the card. As a matter of fact, the Modern Masters versions ticked up slightly this week. Coming in number 2 is Contagion Engine, down $1.89 to $9.50. Here's another card that saw a huge spike in the wake of the Breed Lethality deck, and again, it's starting to stabilize a little bit, and this value is going to come down more as the weeks go on, I believe. And finally, coming in at number 1 is Noble Hierarch, Conflux version, down $2.07 to $65.86. I think everyone's got their fingers crossed for a reprint of this one in Modern Masters 2017. Alright, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week, and you will see some modern playable cards here, but you're also going to see some cards influenced by other formats. Coming in number 5 on the modern cards, Through the Breach, up $1.01 to $44.37. Coming in at number 4, Ajani Steadfast, up $1.04 to $10.44. Now, this one may have flown under some people's radars, but if you want a card that's going to be a fantastic pickup for the Breed Lethality deck, this is definitely it, and I think a lot of players are starting to catch on to that. Not only is it good just out of the box, just sliding it into the deck, but also a lot of players are turning that deck into Super Friend style decks, and this works in that situation as well. This is one of the cards we featured in our upgrade video for that particular deck, and I don't think we're big enough of a channel to influence the price of this card or anything. I just think a lot of people are starting to realize it, and you want to keep an eye on this one. I could see this going up a little more over the next few weeks. Coming in at number 3 is Sudden Shock from Modern Masters, up $1.57 to $2.78. Now this card is seeing a fair amount of play in the Scape Shift style decks, the Titan Shift decks, so I do think those decks will continue to be popular in Modern for quite some time, so this is another card you may want to keep an eye on. Coming in number 2 is Bloom Tender, up at $3.49 to $26.50. Now this is an Eventide rare, Eventide being one of those sets that was opened very little compared to a lot of more contemporary Magic sets. But what's interesting about this card is it's a nice fit in 4 of the 5 Commander 2016 decks that are out there, with the exception of the Artifact deck, of course, it doesn't use green. But this is great because those decks are 4-color decks. Could really slide into any of them. But again, Breed Lethality players are looking at this one, especially if they're looking for the Super Friends upgrade. And coming in at number 1, Jace Vryn's Prodigy, up $4.24 to $28.45. So what's the story with this card? Now, Jace is seeing play in a lot of different places. I mean, a little bit in Modern, sure. But vintage decks, you do see Jace in a fair amount of those, also legacy decks. But I really don't think vintage and legacy are driving this type of spike, just because those formats aren't played as heavily as many of the other ones. And the folks that do play those formats pretty much stick to their decks. There's not a whole lot of shifting going on there. Where I think this card is being influenced is by the Frontier format. Now, in Frontier, there is a deck which is basically a version of the Rally the Ancestors deck that we saw not that long ago in Standard that is very hot right now in that format, as well as other decks that are running Jace, like an Install Artifact deck and a number of others. So I think because of that, this card is definitely getting some attention, and that is very interesting to note because it's the first time we've seen on the Market Watch that Frontier is potentially influencing a card, at least to this degree, and this is actually pretty strong. And this is an indicator that other cards from those decks could start to go up as well. So if you're even semi-interested in Frontier, you may want to start looking at deck lists and start thinking about what cards you may want to put together decks, just because I think the values of some of these cards are about to spike. So we'll continue to keep an eye on Jason cards like this. Now, like I said at the top of the show, some folks think that Frontier will fade away, and it's very possible. It's really too early to tell at this point, but at least right now, we are seeing some trends that show that Frontier is gaining momentum. Alright, let's move on to Legacy. We're going to look at the top 5 cards that have lost value this week, and I will say as we go into these two lists, we're actually seeing some different cards in Legacy this week, which is always nice and refreshing. Coming in number 5 is Drain Power from Unlimited, down $6.28 to $10.72. I think this one's just kind of a blip on the radar. Somebody probably got a deal on Drain Power this week. Not a lot of these change hands, so if somebody got a slightly cheaper one, it's going to leave an impact like this. Coming in number 4 is Bayou, and this is the Unlimited version, down $7.97 to $277.03. Pretty normal stabilization for this card. Coming in number 3 is Singing Tree, down $8.64 to $39.25. Now, this is an Arabian Nights card that is actually relatively affordable. If you're looking to pick up just maybe some of the Arabian Nights rares or some of the cards that you feel could over time go up in value, I think this one will definitely go up in value at some point. As a matter of fact, I noticed on the Amazon affiliate store as I was adding cards this morning, Singing Tree you can pick up there for about $30, $31, which is very, very reasonable, I think, for this card, considering its rarity and the fact that Arabian Nights cards are getting very hot right now. Coming in at number 2 is All Hallows Eve, down $15.69 to $123.21. Now, this card has spiked really hard. It obviously was a target of a buyout through October, spiked again about a week ago, and now it's starting to come down a little bit. But here's the deal with this card. Even though, yes, it was a target of a buyout, and yes, these copies will start to get introduced back into the market at this point, it's still a very unique card, and I think the buyout, if nothing else, just brought a lot of attention to it. And yes, it will go down a little more, but it's not going to go down nearly to as low as it was to begin with. Christopher Rush art, very unique art. It looks amazing. And again, it's dealing with real-world themes, especially Halloween. It's just one of those cards that collectors and just people that love Magic just are going to want to have a copy of. And coming in at number 1 is Nether Void, down $37.03 to $260.99. Another card that was a target of a buyout, started to go down in price, and then spiked again last week, which was a little unusual, but now it's starting to go back down again. All right, let's look at the cards that have gained value this week in Legacy, and at least one of them is a card that is, again, a Commander 2016 upgrade card. Coming in number 5, Spike Weaver, and this in particular is the Battle Royale version, up $7.90 to $15.97, although the Exodus version also went up quite a bit this week. This is another, you guessed it, great upgrade for the Breed Lethality deck. Coming in number 4 is Island of Wak Wak, up $8.50 to $85. And here's another Arabian Night card that I think sooner or later is going to hit the $100 mark, I have no doubt. You know, as a side story, it's kind of funny. Whenever I see this card, it reminds me of a friend of mine back in 1995 had his deck stolen, and this card was probably one of the most expensive cards in the deck. At that time, I think it was worth maybe like $15 or something like that. But whenever I see this card, it makes me a little sad. Coming in number 3 is Moat, up $8.97 to $579.95, normal stabilization for this card. Number 2 is Diamond Valley, up $9 to $203, so this is actually crossed the $200 mark. This one's been going up very quickly, and again, yes, it may be a target of a buyout, but it's just another one of those really hot Arabian Nights cards right now. Coming in number 1 is the unlimited version of Force Field, up $18.19 to $179.95. Now, this card could be influenced by players that play 93-94 a little bit, but I think more or less a lot of collectors are starting to gain more and more interest in cards that are not necessarily the dual lands or even the Power 9 cards, but they're very interested in some of the cards from Unlimited that did not get reprinted and revised, Force Field being one of them. So watch out for those cards. I think they're starting to gain a little momentum as well. Having said that, that is the market watch for this week. So I'm actually very excited to see what's going to happen over the next few weeks as we get closer and closer to the Ether Revolt reveals and then eventually launch. Because I do think that this is going to be a big indicator of the future of Magic with this set in particular. What we see happen with Standard is going to really be an indicator of where Standard is and where the game is at this point. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen over the month of January. So hey, until next time, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.